And by the way, this is the first time they've seen each other in 20 years. Mr. Duncan Regehr, who of course played Zorro on the CBN television network for 3 years, and Henry Darrow played his father. Zorro and Son. Last but certainly not least, we have Lisa Liu. You remember her, I'm sure, from Half Men Will Travel, from Yancey Derringer. She guested on many Western television shows over the years. And by the way, she and James Best, he may not be in the room, I'm not sure, but they worked together in The Mountain Road, and it was the first time they saw each other last night since they made the film in 1960. So we've got another reunion with those two being here. We've got a clip on Miss Liu. Go ahead. Start the question now. I guess I want to direct the first question in this direction. You mentioned earlier, you gentlemen, this is the first time we've seen each other, I guess, since the series ended. How does that feel to see each other after all this time?
Duncan hasn't changed. I have to know it's his work. His eyes have gotten bluer, he's stronger.
I just take after him. No, I mean, it's wonderful. We did see each other a couple of times in Los Angeles after the show was over. It still has been, it's got to be close to 20 years. A long time.
Give us the background on how you two were cast for that show.
Well, I think for me, I'm come out of my wicked ways with playing Darrow Flynn. And so I was sort of a fit for Zorro because I could already fence and I could ride horses and what have you. So it was sort of an easy thing to just slot into. So I didn't have any magic touch or anything like that. I just got lucky.
Ray, we can't hear you. No sound.
The mics be turned up. Closer to the mic. Okay. Turned up.
He was the most disciplined actor that I've ever worked with. We were doing Zorro. I replaced Efren Zimbalist Jr., who played a very comfortable father. And I don't think he liked the heat in Spain and it ruined his golf game. And so he left the show after the first season, and I was lucky enough to come in and do from the second on for the next 3 years. And hit it off with Duncan right away.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we had a good time. He worked out every morning here at 4:30. He knew his dialogue. He knew your dialogue. It was incredible. He and Richard Widmark are the most disciplined actors that I've ever worked with. They gave you their best performance that they would do for their close-up off the camera. For your close-up, they would give you the same intensity and drive, etc., etc.
I just learned that from you.
That's what professionalism is about. That you give your fellow actor his best shot. And that's what this man did. Plus, he was a horseman. His fencing. Who was the man who worked with us?
Peter Diamond.
Peter Diamond.
In the late Peter Diamond. Yeah, he did. I mean, he was a wonderful swordsman, probably the best in the world for stage and film. And I'd worked with him on a picture called The Last Days of Pompeii in Rome. And when it came to put the pictures together for Zorro, the producers asked me, they said, well, who would you like to work with? And I said, well, there's just one guy that we have to get, and that's Peter Diamond. And he was brilliant. We worked every Sunday, which was the day off, in Madrid, and sort of choreographed all of the stuff for the following week. But his routines were amazing, and he could work magic that they really have to do in CGI today. I mean, back then we did everything. It was what you got. I mean, we were there, we did it, and he sort of had an interesting style, a combination of foil and saber, so that we could do the close-up work, which was very small work but very fast, and then the broader strokes and the saber with the saber roots, which would sort of carry us across the plaza, over barrels, up on tables, swinging through chandeliers, whatever we did. But he was wonderful, and I miss it very much.
Since we're talking about swordsmen, Mr. Williams, your father worked with another great swordsman. Right back here.
Can I address this to that end of the table, if I may? I was with Ray Austin in London very recently, and he asked me to say hi to you two gentlemen. I don't forget him. I think he's working for Britain or something. But
He did both well.
I believe he still does. I just wondered how it was doing a Western show. I know you were saying a Western show with an English director who was, as a stuntman, who's more used to sort of cuts and the British way of doing it. How was he working?
Beautiful. I mean, Ray was the dynamo of the whole show. I mean, he really put it together and sort of had an overall vision for it, which really helped. And he had a great sense of humor too. I mean, he really moved things along at a great pace, and you know, the fisticuffs came in handy. He was probably, you know, at the time, recently retired from the stunt world, as well as being a director, but he was probably Britain's greatest stuntman at one point in his career. He really knew all the tricks, and we needed that kind of efficiency on the show to meet the schedule and what have you. But he was fantastic, a great director. When you say that, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And he started the French rolling buffet.
Yes.
Which was all day. Whatever you wished, and that was a delight. Plus, he brought a tremendous sense of humor on the set. He had a fun time doing the show.
We should tell them what the rolling buffet was and how it came about. I mean, the first year we were filming there, it was a combination of English, American, and Spanish crew, and somehow we all managed to communicate with each other and get the thing done. But the Spanish liked to have a glass of wine at lunchtime, and so there was always a bottle of red and a bottle of white on each table in the canteen tent. And you know, after lunch, it's the practice to have a little bit of a rest after lunch, and this would go on for maybe 2 or 3 hours. Well, you know, we're a bunch of crazy Americans and English people who, you know, go out in the midday sun, and only mad dogs and Englishmen do that. So I think they had the right idea, but we weren't getting any work done. I mean, everybody was, after a couple of bottles of wine at lunch, everybody was asleep. So we eventually had to take the wine off the table, and we very nearly had a mutiny in the second year. So that was the first step. We managed to do that, and we eventually managed to, Ray came in with this idea of the running buffet, where we never actually sat down for lunch at all. We just set out a big, large buffet, and we just helped ourselves throughout the day and did the work, and we actually finished early.
Yeah, that was the nice part, finishing early. Ray used to come to work with slippers. They were velvet-like red slippers with some kind of a crest on them.
And it came from Harrods.
It came from Harrods. That didn't make you laugh.
I still have a pair that he bought me.
Yeah, that didn't make you laugh to start the morning off on the set. There it was. And then we had an actor who replaced another actor, John Hertzler, playing I think it was the mayor. His first day on the set was he put a picket fence around his dressing room and a phony plastic plant. He opened up a book and started reading. Everybody passed by and it's like, who's that? That's the new mayor. And I was like, oh. Yes.
I'd like to know what part of Spain it was filmed in, because the backgrounds were beautiful. Where would you find that as far as background, and where was their studio set up?
Well, there was both. We actually built a pueblo outside of a little town called Colmenar, which is just outside of Madrid. And we also, I guess, shot in Escorial and But we did have a studio set as well.
You had your own back lot set.
We had our own back lot, which was a sheep farm in the middle of nowhere. And I believe it's a sheep farm again today.
Yeah, the gentleman tore down the set.
Yeah.
When you're doing an action adventure series like that, I mean, stunts always come to mind, and injuries and that sort of thing. Were there any scary moments doing the Zorro series?
Yeah, there were a few. I'm reminded of the worst one for me was I practically lost my entire manhood. Pretty scary. We had several horses that played Toronado because they were good at doing different things. I mean, there was a Toronado that could really run fast and liked to do that. There was a Toronado that could stand still. You know, there was other ones that were, you know, just friendly. You know, but then we interchanged them for the different tasks that they would have to do. And there was one that stood still and that you could usually jump onto quite easily, do the flying leap and get onto. And I remember this one stunt with, it was with Daniel Craig. Remember when he came out of the show?
Yes.
And
James Bond.
James Bond. And it was very early in Daniel's career. You know, we were always joking about macho stuff being, you know, you got to get in there, Daniel, and fight like a man, and pick up your sword, and, you know, just kidding around with each other. But I had to do this running across the top of these buildings and then jump down and land on the horse. So we had to get the horse that stood still to do that. And, you know, I was talking to Daniel, saying, well, just stand by, you know, this is how it's done, okay, Daniel? You know, so I did the run across the building and jumped off the building, and the horse took one step backwards. So I had to carry on. I rode out of town, but Hasta La Vista came out like, Hasta La Vista!
I've heard stories like that.
And Daniel standing there saying, yeah, macho!
I've heard similar stories, and they would end it by saying that's how the yodel was born.
Yes.
What about your dad, Mr. Williams, stunts, that kind of thing?
I think we both took a shot at it. I said, you go first. Yeah, no, there was no crevasse there. Yeah.
Get over here.
I wanted to ask a question with Dennis Regehr about what it's like essentially playing two roles within the same script. Like the people that wasn't
Yeah, I mean, the dual personality character is always a pretty interesting thing to play. You know, and I'm typecast that way because I always have conversations with myself. But yeah, it really makes it more interesting. And in the early days of Zorro, I really wanted there to be much more contrast between Don Diego and Zorro. I wanted to play Diego more as more bookish, more like a Benjamin Franklin character, maybe even with long hair or something like that. Because you never see Zorro's hair, so they wouldn't know. You know, put a pair of old-fashioned glasses on him or something and do it that way. And I tried it on with the producer, and they said no. So we're not doing that. And but what they were after was kind of a more Walt Disney sort of approach to it. So there wasn't that much difference between Diego and Zorro, except that Diego was a more retiring, gentler person. Zorro had a few rougher edges about it, but it made it interesting anyway.
Mr. Darrow, you've actually been in a couple of other incarnations of Zorro. You want to talk about those?
I played Zorro's voice in the cartoon, and in that particular situation, you do not work with fellow actors. You're hibernated. You're just in one studio, and you do the dialogue yourself. And I remember when I first auditioned, I had a line that said, "Buenas noches, señorita," and I went, nothing suggestive about that. I said, what's so suggestive about Las Noches, Señorita? He said, just that. So I wound up just doing Buenas Noches, Señorita, and that was it. From then on, I had no problem, because when you're by yourself, you don't know what how the other actor responds. So the delivery is usually flat, quiet, low-key, etc. And I had a good time. They fairly well. I had no problem. And then I did Zorro and Son, which was, I was 50-something at the time. Eric Cohen was the producer, and I got up on a desk and pretended I was fencing for the audition, and then I almost slipped off, and he said, that's exactly what I want. And then they used a guy named Paul Regina, and he had been discovered like John Travolta. Eric Cohen had discovered him and put him in that series, and so they thought, oh, we'll do the same thing. And I remember him complaining, oh God, gonna be stuck as Zorro Jr. And I said, you know, all the T-shirts and all the pictures that you'll sell. Anyway, we only did 5 episodes for Disney, and then we wound up working together, and I played Duncan's father, and that was sweet. That was a nice time. It was a good run all the way around, and working with Jimmy Victor, who would know his dialogue all the time. But it was fun working with him, and Patrice Martinez, beautiful and a good actress. She had worked at the Royal Academy. And then the different actors that came from England. The English have a proper way of pronouncing a Spanish name, so they didn't have to fiddle around too much with an accent. Senor Rodriguez. And that was enough. They didn't have to do much after that. And we had very few American actors come. We had, I don't remember, but there were some marvelous English actors that were on our set working, and that made a big difference. They added a luster to the show all the way around. But it was a great 3 years, no complaints.
Mr. Regehr, don't you have some Shakespeare training?
Yeah, I think, you know, I went to Stratford and did a lot of Shakespeare there, but also in the regional theaters of Canada, and it's good background, good training, and of course that's where I learned defense. I was trained by a guy named Patrick Crane, who actually worked with Errol Flynn for a period of time, and so I got some of those skills through the classics.
Speaking of Errol Flynn, you mentioned earlier that you played him in My Wicked, Wicked Ways.
Right.
How did you research that?
I didn't have a lot of time to research it, actually. I was doing a picture that I mentioned earlier, The Last Days of Pompeii, and the producers showed up on the set, and they said, you know, we want you to play this part, and you start 3 weeks after you wrap this. I said, well, it doesn't give me a lot of time to research the character at all, but, you know, I'm not going to say no, it's a great role, I'll take a shot at it. And so what I did, of course, was go to his autobiography, which is what the film was based on, and that gave me a lot of information. But then I started looking at his old films, and it was Gentleman Jim in particular that actually gave me the key, the clue to his movement, and just his general demeanor as a way of playing Flynn. And that particular film was one.
Okay, some more questions out here.
Got a microphone.
I've got a mic if you need it.
Okay, bring it down to this gentleman with the hat on there.
I wanted to ask Duncan if he did his own stunts with the bowling.
Yes. Yeah, it was great fun. I learned how to use it and to, you know, work it in different directions. And, you know, it took a bit of practice to get the sword, you know, ride the horse, use the sword and the whip at the same time. It's very complicated. Usually took a few takes.
I had an opportunity to use whips. I used one on High Chaparral one time. I took a knife out of an Indian's hand, and the knife came whizzing at me. And I just tossed the whip away. And another time I was doing a show in Sweden with two smaller whips, and I did a high with the whip and grabbed the light and pulled. The light came down, and I just took the two whips and threw them into the audience. And that was it. I'm done with the whips.
I understand how Duncan transitioned from the aeroplane part to the Zorro part. How did your father, Guy Williams Jr., how did your father treat
Duncan? We're talking about the way the series is actually multiple-ended. I just recently, thanks to my friend here, discovered the Zorro series and just watched the last 4, and a rather abrupt ending. Can you talk about it a little bit? I mean, it was sweet, but I had a feeling something might have happened at the end of the show.
Do you remember the last 4?
I'm really racking my brains. Last 4.
Was this the one where you were supposed that I was supposed to have fathered the second, a twin?
Right.
Oh, the 4th part.
Right. Yeah, I remember that one.
The series ended with you guys walking away. You had something to tell him. You had said you were going to adopt Felipe, but you had something else you wanted to tell your father, and you walked away.
Yes, and we'll never tell what that is.
Right here in the middle. Wait for the mic. Wait for the mic.
Lisa,
Since I was about 4. I mean, I knew that I was going to be an artist long before I ever knew I was going to be an actor. So it's, we talk about the duality of characters. That's really the way it's gone for me throughout my life, is I've been an artist and an actor, and so there's a sort of parallel there. But I work through different themes as an artist, and my work is usually related to my written work as well, through poetry and prose, and so it works that way for me. I work through different themes and usually figurative art. So, and it really doesn't have very much to do with acting at all. It's just another life.